What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports. And just to say it right on the top right here, I think Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, is very thankful for what we're basically going to be talking about today because it kind of takes him a little bit off the major headlines, considering of what happened and what transpired after Sunday's game against the Cleveland Browns. We all know it. We all discussed it and everything like that. I think he's really happy about what the Phillies did this afternoon in their after-season press conference with Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson. And just to completely summarize the entire thing, my God, it felt so tone-deaf. It felt so tone-deaf right now because it was not a good press conference. And I completely understand face value, everything like that with Dave Dombrowski and the plans that this team is most likely going to have for this offseason. They're not going to play their cards right the entire way. They're not going to state what they're doing. They're not going to say they're going to do X, Y, and Z here and this. We're not going to say, oh, we're trading Alec Boehm. Oh, we're doing this. Oh, we're doing that. I completely understand that. But the points that they bring up and the way that they make their statements, it's just completely tone deaf to right now a franchise that has lost the trust of a fan base and a fan base that is very, 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 very frustrated and very annoyed with the way that the past couple of seasons have ended. Okay, it's been basically been a steady downward spiral since going to the World Series in 22. You rode off the high of that. There were no expectations. You went on a deep run and everything like that. 2023, the expectations still probably were not as high as they were this year, but you still went on the deep run, but then eventually you choked there in a game 6 and 7 in your own stadium. And then this year, the expectations were to win a championship. One, you didn't make any major moves in the offseason prior to it. So you put in front of us, this is the team that we trust. This is the team that we expect to go out and win a World Series. This, and that. This is what they're going to do, X, Y, and Z. And then, okay, they go and win a division, and then they get absolutely embarrassed by the New York Mets in an NLDS in the first round. And then, basically, it's a complete failure. It is an utter failure of what the goal you set out to do. You constantly stated in the offseason, spring training, all that stuff, we're going to make amends for how we collapsed last season. We're going to fix our approach. We're going to not chase as many pitches and so much. We're going to change our approach at the plate to where when we get in those situations, we're not going to do the same thing that caused us to fail. And you completely reverted back to doing the same thing that caused you to fail, and that was chasing, trying to do way too much at the plate, and that resulted, plus also your bullpen completely imploding on you, which no one expected in the world, that resulted in you being complete failures. And there is no way that you can go into this offseason and say that you are confident in the team that you have at face value and you expect to still be competitive with this same exact team. There's no way that you can't make changes. So it was basically either you're solely making roster changes, you're solely making coaching staff changes, or you're going to be doing an interchange of the two choices. And from what it sounds like, basically right here, no coaches are getting fired. So basically, this entire situation is all player based. It's all player blame based. The players are the reason why we're not succeeding. The players are the reason why we failed. The players are the ones in the batter's box. The players are the ones on the pitching mound not succeeding, not getting the ultimate goal. We're not going to blame the coaching staff here. And yeah, I think that is true to an extent. But I think changing a coaching staff, specifically, I don't mind extending Rob Thompson. I don't think Rob Thompson was the issue, even though I don't think he made the best decisions in that series against the New York Mets. I don't think he did anything really egregious, even though I did say keeping Jeff Hoffman in there was malpractice and was deserving of firing on the spot. That's obviously a stretch. That's obviously being dramatic. I don't think Rob Thompson did enough to automatically declare that he should be fired. I think Rob Thompson is still a good manager in this league. Obviously, he comes with his flaws. What other manager in baseball doesn't come with their flaws? So I don't think it's a Rob Thompson issue, even though there are to certain extents where I don't like how he words certain things and the way that he has his attitude because he's very, I would say he's very complacent. He's very player friendly. We all know this, and I think that sometimes, especially when things aren't going your way, it kind of rubs off the wrong way with the fan base because you're like, if things are going bad, oh, we'll be fine. Oh, we're gonna figure it out. Blah 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 blah. He's not the kind of guy that's gonna put a player under the bus. We all know this, but it would help, and this is going back to making some coaching staff changes, specifically on the hitting side. Kevin Long has been the Phillies hitting coach for how many seasons at this point? I believe it's 3, 4, or something like that. It's definitely pushing at least 4, I would say. We basically, at this point, know what the philosophy of Kevin Long is. Wouldn't it benefit your lineup to get a different philosophy in there? Wouldn't it help? Wouldn't it help to get a different type of philosophy in there to where it changes your guys' approach? And even though, yes, you have guys on the roster that have been in the league for a long time, and they were stating this during the press conference too, about getting guys to buy into getting a different approach, having a different play style, having a different mentality, which when you bring them to time, it kind of turns buy in. That kind of rubs me the wrong way because how are these guys not bought in to making any kind of changes whatsoever? So you're talking about Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, and specifically, I don't think those names were specifically brought up, but when you have these guys, these 5 in particular, hitting wise, that have been in the league for a very long time, these are basically who these guys are. This is not putting blame on Bryce Harper or anything like that. Bryce Harper is a star in this league for a reason, but we all know that Nick Castellanos has a very terrible chase problem. Trey Turner has a very terrible chase problem. Same thing, honestly, you could say with JT Realmuto. These guys have been in the league for so long, it's going to be hard for them to basically just change basically who they are at this point. You're talking about guys that are in their 30s, guys that have been doing this for basically 7, 8, 9, 10 plus years at this point in the league. They're not really going to do that much to change their entire approach at the plate because that's basically who they are. But then you could also maybe bring in another coach to maybe just change a philosophy a little bit. Not overridingly change what the player is, but get a different type of mentality in that hitting room to where you can look at certain things, bring different ideas in there to maybe where it helps certain guys out much better instead of just keeping the same old thing here. Yes, I understand it's the players at the end of the day that don't get the job done. But we've been through the same song and dance the past couple of years, the same situation where your hitting goes quiet, you're insanely boom or bust offense where it can go on fire for a couple of weeks and then can go absolutely cold for a couple of weeks. We all know this. It's been the same pattern for the past few seasons. It's been too much of a pattern, and it drastically needs to change because at this point, even though I thought the Phillies the past couple of years have been World Series caliber, they got to it within a game of going back to the World Series last year with this same brand of offense. But at this point, when teams start to adjust to you, when teams start to realize your flaws and they start to exploit those flaws, it's going to be harder to win. It's going to be harder to get to that ultimate goal. And that's the problem there. And bringing back Kevin Long is part of that issue to where at this point, they're keeping that part of the coaching staff. Now they need to make changes to the roster, but then when Dave Dombrowski speaks, it kind of feels like he's reflecting on he's not going to make any major changes to the roster, which, like I said, that goes back to not playing all your cards that you have in your hand in the press conference. He's not going to describe literally everything that he's going to do. I completely understand that at the end of the day. But right now, like I explained, you have a fan base that is very frustrated. You have a fan base that is losing patience, a fan base that is losing trust, and they've seen the same thing year after year after year. Something needs to give to where the fan base can give their full faith back into you because it's going to be very hard to get a lot of people to buy back in. If you run it back with the same exact team, the same exact roster, and all the excuses, no one's going to buy back into you. They're just not. Yeah, you might still be a good team next year, but no one's really going to expect you to win anything because they know at the end of the day when times get tough, you're not going to be able to show up. It's just not going to happen. And that's the problem with possibly bringing back the same group. Dave Dombrowski talks about we have 8 all-stars here, that we don't need to go after star players and everything like that, talking about the chase rate problems and everything, talking about Trey Turner's defensive metrics and trying to basically avoid that question and talking about how poorly Trey Turner's defensive metrics have declined over the past couple of years, but you're sticking with him at shortstop, even though his defense is a utter problem there because the guy cannot field his position. His bat is one thing, the dude can't field his position. That is the one thing right there that he cannot do. And now you're talking about questions in the outfield. You don't know who your left fielder is. You don't know who your center fielder is. You're already talking about sending Johan Rojas over the offseason to fix his hitting. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? We're talking about, and he's not even guaranteed a spot next year on the roster. So you have no idea what you're doing in the outfield, basically, at this point, besides Nick Castellanos. You have no clue what you're doing. So just the entire, and there's a lot of things that you can go here because I have the entire article that summarizes it from Crossing Broad. I have some quotes here from Dave Dombrowski about his trade deadline and everything right there. And I have some quotes here too, some from video. It's just, it's basically it. There's so many things here, like, top free agents that the Phillies can possibly go after. There's a lot of things that we can go through. So basically, if I go through this entirety of the article on Crossing Broad here, so obviously the Rob Thompson extension through 2026, I really don't find an issue with that. They don't want to run into a season with a manager on the final year of his contract. I have no problems with that whatsoever. It's really the fact that you're bringing back Kevin Long. That is my major issue there with the coaching staff. Your 5th starter in 2025. Right now, they're already guaranteeing that Taijuan Walker is not guaranteed a spot, even though they're guaranteeing that he's not guaranteed a spot, which should be fucking obvious. He shouldn't be even on the roster next season, in my honest opinion. Dave Dombrowski, talking about Andrew Painter as well. He looked really good in the Arizona Fall League start that he had a couple of days ago. So he's definitely going to be in time for a race for that 5th spot in the rotation. So we're definitely going to have to look there to see what happens. Trey Turner, obviously, they're not considering a position change. He's staying at shortstop. Outfield moving forward, Dave Dombrowski seems pretty high on Brandon Marsh as far as Johan Rojas. They have an offseason plan for him down in Clearwater to work on his offensive game. Dombrowski declined to name Rojas as the starting center fielder for 2025. Star players. So Dombrowski said that he doesn't think the team needs to add a star player, but he didn't completely shoot it down. He mentioned that the team has more stars than any team in baseball. And I swear to God, if he's latching on to the fucking all-star, because the Phillies had so many all-stars at the all-star game this year, that is fucking sad. And I don't think he's going to latch on to that, but that's definitely not a message that you should be describing to a fan base where your team that was loaded with all-stars completely and utterly collapsed in the first round of the playoffs. That is not a message that you want to send to a fan base right there, because you're basically making it sound like, oh, we really don't need to make any major changes. Look at all the all-stars we had last year. My God. They also mention plate approach. It's no surprise that the Phillies have a chase issue, and Dombrowski knows that. He said the team will have to evaluate their approach in the offseason, but still back this offense and their capability to play good baseball. Thompson emphasized that the Phillies have to use the entire field. He knows that will help the chase rate, which was a glaring issue. So they're talking about using all fields at this point, which is very much a cliche at the end of the day. I know talking about, oh, you're going good when you're using every part of the field, blah, 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 blah. Like I said, I think with Kevin Long in the helm, you're not going to fix your chase rate. I just don't think that's going to be the case at the end of the day. They talk about Bryce Harper's health. Rob Thompson said that Bryce Harper is fine. His wrist was obviously hurting throughout the second half, but it's nothing that will require any scans or procedures. He believes he really just needs rest. Also talking about JT Realmuto. Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thompson both stressed the importance of getting JT Realmuto more rest in 2025. It was obvious the catcher was burnt out at the end of the season. Both emphasized that they don't know who the backup will be, but they will put JT in a good position to succeed. So that makes me think that Garrett Stubbs most likely isn't going to be the backup catcher next year. That gives me all that feeling right there. So either they're going to stick with Rafael Marchand as the backup catcher and give him a lot of leeway, or they're going to go after and sign a backup catcher that you can play and give JT. Even though that was one thing that I did stress, if you weren't going to get rid of JT Realmuto, you have to get a catcher that's going to, take some playing time away from him, because he's a catcher that is on the wrong side of 30. He's turning 35 soon, if I'm not mistaken. When you have that much leverage, not leverage, when you have that much tenure behind the plate, especially in the catching position, you're gonna eventually decline. And I think we're starting to see that with JT Realmuto. So you need to get something in that catcher position to either take some games away from him so he doesn't play as much, or something else. I have no idea. But then you get to the freaking trade deadline question mark and the trade deadline quote. And it kind of sounds like Dave Dombrowski was very happy with his trade deadline, which was a complete and utter failure with a team that was, at the time, one of the best teams in baseball record-wise. And you had a chance to basically go into the trade deadline and continue to prove that, hey, we mean fucking business. We go out and got X, Y, and Z. We went out and got this good guy. Huh, the Phillies are making a name for themselves. They're going all for it. No, we got Austin Hayes. We got Carlos Estevez. Okay. You got marginally better. You got marginally better. This is his quote on the trade deadline. Well, we were happy with the trades that we made at the particular time. I've been in this role before where sometimes you make moves and they turn out great. Other times you make moves and they don't turn out really well as you would like. I think our situation here, there were really two major acquisitions we made at the trade deadline. Tanner Banks we liked, and Tanner Banks pitched as we would have thought he pitched. We think he helped our bullpen, but he's also not a guy we really required with a high leverage in mind. So we got Austin Hayes, who we liked a great deal. Unfortunately, Austin Hayes got hurt almost immediately. And yeah, that's not Austin Hayes' fault, what he dealt with at the end of the season. He got hurt, and then he had the kidney infection. So if you judge it on that, that was not very good. It didn't work out well for us. We liked Carlos Estevez. He did a good job for us. He was solid. He helped shape our bullpen. I really liked even how he threw in the postseason. Oh, God, until he threw that pitch to Francisco Lindor. Jesus fucking Christ. So he was the one guy that threw the ball well before that. So you're judging Carlos Estevez on the one clean inning that he had. I believe that was in Game 2 or something like that in the postseason, regardless of him. Yes, even though he was put into a terrible situation with what Jeff Hoffman put him into in that Game 4 against the Mets, I don't think you could take positives away from that. I'm just being honest. So we added the players that we thought we needed to add. Unfortunately, Austin Hayes got hurt, and there's nothing we can do about that. I just don't understand the fact of this quote where he's making it sound like Austin Hayes is 20 billion times better than he is. Austin Hayes is a platoon player. And yes, I feel bad for what Austin Hayes went through with all the injuries, the kidney infection, and all that stuff. It definitely sucks. I feel bad for what he went through. But at the end of the day, when you're judging the baseball player and not the human being, the baseball player that is Austin Hayes is not that good. He's just not that good. And you sold him like he was the answer in left field. And that's where your fucking philosophy is wrong. It's just, philosophy is flawed there. No one can go into this thinking that Austin Hayes was going to drastically improve this team. No one. You just can't. You physically can't. They also talk about lineup construction. Rob Thompson was asked about Kyle Schwarber's production this season. Thompson said they've won a lot of games with Schwarber in the leadoff spot, but they'll go through lineup construction this offseason and figure out what's best for the team moving forward. And yeah, that definitely is a conversation that needs to be had. And this is no knock on Kyle Schwarber, but I think this team now needs a new identity at the top of the lineup. And I think it's time for Schwarber to get out of that leadoff position. And you have to have a different mentality. You have to have a different face of what your lineup's going to look like from top to bottom. And that definitely is going to be a question mark on who should be the top leadoff guy there. A lot of people do bring up putting Bryce Harper in the leadoff spot. That definitely could be something that intrigues me at the end of the day. Other guys in the lineup, a lot of people that want Bryson Stott there. I just don't think that he's ready for that type of spot in the lineup at all. I don't think he's near what he needs to be that type of leadoff hitter that the Phillies need. And really just looking at the rest of the lineup, what Trey Turner, are you going to put him in leadoff? I have no idea. JT Realmuto, obviously not. Alec Boehm, fuck no, he shouldn't be on the roster next year. Nick Castellanos, no way in fucking hell. Who else? Brandon Marsh, no, if he's even on the team next year. Then whoever the fuck that you think of next. That's just, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. And I do want to get to some of the quotes here from Dave Dombrowski too. John Foley of Philly, Doc or PHLY, put some quotes here on top of the talking about Trey Turner's defensive metrics and the way Dave Dombrowski sounded, and the way that he talked about the outfield situation, and also talking about Taijuan Walker as well. So let's get to the quote that he talks about with Trey Turner's defense.
Okay, go to Tim on the right.
Dave, by old and new school metrics, Trey Turner has really struggled defensively since coming here. Will he remain at shortstop moving forward?
Well, when you say that, his metrics are very similar to what they were before he came here in many ways. So Trey has been, he will be our shortstop, yes. He's going to be our shortstop the coming year. But we also feel that sometimes you have to be careful with some of that, and I'm not sure which metrics you're using, but they're not always 100% the defensive. We put some, we rely on defensive metrics, but there's also not a perfect way of describing the defensive aspects of the game as far as we know. He did not have not an outstanding defensive shortstop. He does have good range. He makes really good plays at times, but he also makes too many errors at points. But he has improved. He's worked hard, and I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to improve despite his age.
Well, in terms of errors, defensive runs saved, outs above average, he has gone in the wrong direction the last couple of years. Why do you think that will change as he ages?
Well, he works hard. I mean, first of all, he's the rare player, and one of the reasons when he signed for a long-term contract, he's very athletic, and so his speed is still very good. He's still one of the fastest guys in baseball, so I don't think you can compare his aging process to, let's say, the average player. But he's a guy that's just very athletic. He works hard. He's got a good infield instructor in Bobby Dickerson. We saw some strides ourselves this year on some things that he improved upon. So that's why I think he'll get better.
You think he gets better because he works hard. Some of those pauses and those stops in that answer were very telling. It's like, oh, I am trying to think of something here. Oh, God. Oh, God. So let's also get to something here that he's talking about the outfield situation, specifically about, I believe, Marsh, Castellanos, center field situations there. So, and the way that he talks about it, John Foley thinks he's inferring something. Possibly. It's an interesting answer, he thinks, but we'll see. We'll see. Let's listen to it.
Second question. A year ago at this time, we sat here and there was you had some uncertainty about what your outfield was going to look like coming into 24. Now it might be the same uncertainty still existing, maybe even a little bit more. How do you look at your outfield at this time and how you're going to approach it going into the offseason?
Well, I mean, our outfield, yeah, it's more uncertain than our infield because our infield's basically set at every single position, and catching and a lot of starting pitchers and that. So, I mean, our outfield, all in all, has, I think it's turned out to be very average at the big league level when you look at it. I think we have one guy that plays every day, Castellanos. We like Marsh still. We like him. I think he's a good player. When you look at his numbers overall, he's good. He can play left or he can play center. We like Rojas, but we need offensive improvement there from him. We have a plan this wintertime. He's going to live in Clearwater. We have a plan from an offensive perspective. He's reduced his chase rate. He's still an outstanding defensive center fielder. He can run. But I can't say he's for sure going to be our center fielder. And then we have Hayes, of course. We'll have to make a decision in that regard. So I'm not sure how it will be, but I would think that a couple of guys for sure that are part of that equation are Marsh and Castellanos, and then we take it from there.
So basically, Austin Hayes, I don't think is coming back. I just don't see it physically possible at this rate. Who knows? But the way this team fucking loves him, he might be back. Rojas doesn't seem like he's going to be part of the plan. So you're talking about just two outfielders right now? You're talking about Nick and you're talking about Marsh. What are you going to do with the other outfield position? And it's going to come to a topic where I don't think it's going to happen, but I think this is where they're fucking putting all the eggs into the basket here. And do I want to get to the quote about Taijuan Walker? I really don't think it's necessary. We know everything with Taijuan Walker at this point. I don't think it's really necessary at the end of the day. So what it really comes to at this, where I think it's just too obvious for them, because even though they're stressing this, they're stressing, oh, we don't want to make major changes and all that stuff, I don't buy anything they're saying. I hate what they're saying, and I wouldn't be shocked if they believe what they're saying and spewing the shit that they're spewing. But they've said the same kind of shit last year, and they went out and tried to spend, over the $300 million on Yamamoto. Obviously, they couldn't get it. They chipped in. They couldn't make the deal happen. They tried to make moves elsewhere and like that, everything there. They tried to spend money still. So this team is going to find some way, shape, or form to spend some type of money this offseason. And this is where I think they're trying to put all their eggs in a fucking basket here. And this better fucking work. This better fucking work because this is the bar that they're setting for themselves. They never said it. But I wouldn't be shocked if this is what they're trying to do. And this is the only way that would justify keeping Kevin Long. Go get Juan Soto. Go get Juan Soto. And I think that's what they're putting all the eggs in the basket for. But this is where my doubt comes into play. You have the New York Yankees that are in the ALCS. I believe they're playing Game 2 tonight. They won Game 1. You also have the New York Mets that are in the NLCS. You have two New York teams that Juan Soto is clearly, obviously wants to stay on the East Coast, wants to play in a bigger market. Why not the New York teams? And it's been clearly shown that he has interest in playing in New York. There's been a lot of Mets rumors. Obviously, New York Yankees, all that crap there. They're trying so hard to put everything physically possible into getting Juan Soto. That's what this entire offseason is going to be about. That's what they're saying. Well, they're not what they're literally saying, but that's what they're inferring. That's what they're probably going to do, and that's what they're going to revolve the entire offseason around. That's what I see. That's what I see 100%. And I don't know if it's going to happen because you're putting so many eggs into this basket. Obviously, you have a lot of things that might go in your favor of attracting Juan Soto. You have all of his buddies from the Nationals. You have Trey Turner. You have Bryce Harper. You have Kyle Schwarber. Those are three guys that he loved playing with in the Nationals. And obviously, you're keeping the hitting coach that he loved. You're keeping Kevin Long. That's the only way that justifies keeping him because there's no other reason possible. There's no other reason possible to keep Kevin Long if it's only to attract Juan Soto. If that is the sole reason that you get Juan Soto is because of Kevin Long, then yes, it is justified keeping Kevin Long. But I'm going to hold you to that standard, and I don't think this is going to happen, by the way. I'm stating this right here. I don't think this is going to happen because why would he leave New York? And you know the Yankees, you know the Mets are going to try to outbid as much as John Middleton tries to outbid them. That is 100% going to be the case. I don't think this is going to happen. They're banking on everything trying to get Juan Soto. That is what they're trying to do. And I'm going to hold them to that standard because, okay, if this is your goal for the offseason, you have to achieve that goal. Because if you don't land Juan Soto, which is probably a 95% chance where it doesn't happen, your offseason is an automatic failure regardless of the moves that you do make. Because you're putting this goal out there that we're trying to get this big fish. You want to land Juan Soto, you're putting all these eggs in the basket here. You kept Kevin Long, you still have all of Juan Soto's buddies from the Nationals. You're trying so hard to convince him to come here. You have all the things that he likes. And now you got to cough up, which they're probably going to cough up money. I don't doubt John Middleton's willingness to spend money. But like I said, I still don't think at the end of the day it's going to happen. And that's why this offseason is going to automatically be a failure. You have the bar set for yourselves, and this is not me setting the bar. This is them setting the bar for themselves. They have to do this. They have to get Juan Soto because that is the only reason that justifies keeping Kevin Long. That's the only way it justifies it. It's the only way. And if you don't get Juan Soto, which is most likely not going to be the case, you're most likely not going to get him, then what the fuck is the point of keeping Kevin Long? Are you just going to run it back with the same team? Because if you're running it back with the same team, you're not going to accomplish anything. You're just not. You're not. And now, yes, I do expect them to make moves otherwise if it's not Juan Soto. I still don't expect Alec Boehm to be here, blah, 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 blah. They got to find something to do with the outfield position and everything like that. There's also a tweet right here from Phillies Tailgate that lists the top free agents position-wise this offseason. Obviously, it's Juan Soto, then it's Teoscar Hernandez, then it's Anthony Santander. Cody Bellinger has a player option. Alec Bregman is an option at third base. Willie Adames is a free agent. Pete Alonso is a free agent, but I think at this point he's going to stay with the Mets, especially with this deep run. Paul Goldschmidt's a free agent. Eugenio Suarez has a club option. Ha-Seong Kim, he has a mutual option with the Padres, but he could be a free agent. Christian Walker is a free agent. And Tyler O'Neill is a free agent as well. Those are the top free agents in regards of position here that we're talking about. And obviously, Juan Soto is the top of the list because he's one of the best players in baseball. Now, I see a couple of you guys here in the chat that are talking about Alex Bregman. I think Alex Bregman would be a mistake. I think he would be a mistake. Do I think he's an upgrade over Alec Bohm? No, 100%. 100% I think he's an upgrade over Alec Bohm because, one, he's won a World Series. He's won multiple World Series. And, yes, he's been a top player in this league before. But he's also on the wrong side of 30, and he's been showing major signs of decline. Major signs of decline. I don't think it would be right to go after a guy like Alex Bregman. My personal opinion. I think that would be a mistake. I think that would just be another bad contract that you get yourself into. But I wouldn't be shocked if that's where Dave Dombrowski reverts himself to if they don't land Juan Soto, which is 100% going to be the case, that they don't get him. Because I just don't see him leaving New York. I just don't. Why would he leave New York, especially when both of the teams are riding the high that they are? So, I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening whatsoever. Now, I'd be stunned if he does sign here. If Juan Soto signs here, I'm hopping back on the fucking train because I'm a fucking lunatic. But I don't see it happening. Now, like I said, I see John Middleton doing whatever it is possible to bring him here. I know John Middleton, he's not afraid of the tax and all that stuff. He's willing to spend money. He's proved that year after year. I don't doubt John Middleton's ability to spend money. And this is no knock on John Middleton whatsoever. I don't think he's really a blame for all of this. I think he's just as pissed as all of us. That article that came out, after the trade deadline talking about complacency and maybe the lack of things to do with the trade deadline, John Middleton was definitely as disappointed as we were. And I'm sure he's as pissed off as we are the way that things ended in the postseason. So I think John Middleton's going to be doing anything possible to make the team better this offseason. But I just don't see, because you're playing a major fucking risk here. You are, because they're putting so many things on the table to try to draw Juan Soto here, and I just don't see it happening. I really don't. So like I said, they're setting the bar for themselves, and that's what I'm going to hold them to. But I don't see it happening at the end of the day. That's why this offseason is going to be an automatic failure, because no one's going to have faith in you. So basically, you're set up to fail. Because nothing that you do will get people to buy back in. Obviously, casuals will be, but the diehards, I'm talking about the diehards on social media, it's going to take a lot for those guys to buy back in. And no one's going to really have faith in you during the regular season, because at this point, you'll be treated like the Sixers. You'll be treated like the Sixers, where the regular season does not matter. What are you going to do come playoff time? That's basically going to be the case. That's going to be the case. So, you put yourself in a position, you did this to yourself. Sorry, not sorry, because this is your own fault for utterly failing and collapsing on yourself. But that's what happens when you completely fail. Completely fail. And that's what this team did. It's what they did. So, let's get to some calls here on the Anytime Hotline, and then we'll end it off here. I'll get to some of you guys here in the chat. That's basically all I wanted to go through today, so let's get to what some of you guys think here. So we got Sean and we got Zach. I think Zach's got a good one here, so let's see. I'm sure Zach's really mad. Zach has been going through his anger all over the chat right here, so let's get his vocal anger here.
Oh, boy, don't you love talking about this team? What a mess of a press conference that was. First and foremost, I'm fine with keeping Rob Thompson. I see this upcoming season as a make-or-break season for him. with the future of him with this organization. But I'm no problem with that. Where I have a real problem is, how do you keep Kevin Long around? How can you even justify that? I mean, I don't want to blame it all on Kevin Long because this lineup deserves a lot of blame too for their poor approach, but that has to do with Kevin Long. And the idea that the only reason you're keeping Kevin Long is because it gives you a better chance to land Juan Soto is ridiculous. Juan Soto is going to be a Yankee or a Met. Why would he want to come to the Phillies after what he just saw when two New York teams are still fighting to go to the World Series? It's not going to happen. And what that tells me is it's Juan Soto or bust. They have no backup plan. And what that means is when they inevitably don't get Juan Soto, they're running this thing back. And you better believe that that is not okay. It's organizational malpractice. And honestly, we've seen it too many times with organizations in this city. So I don't know what to do, but I can't do anything. I got to sit back and watch this dumpster fire. Oh, I'm thrilled. And hey, at least we got the Eagles. Boy, I tell you, there's nobody happier in Philadelphia than Nick Sirianni right now after that press conference took a lot of smoke off his back. What a mess we have with our teams, man. Go Flyers.
Yep. Just another day in Philadelphia. That's basically it. You basically just summarized everything that I thought. So, yeah, it's in full agreement. Their offseason plan is 100% Juan Soto or bust. And I think at least 95% chance it is a bust. I firmly believe that. I firmly do. The only way I see Juan Soto coming here is if that he really loves Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Kevin Long that much, and he looks into the fact that, say if the Yankees were to win the World Series, that'd be like, okay, I got 2 World Series here. Let me go make my money and maybe help a team, and I could play with my friends and the people that I like. Maybe that could be the case. And like I said, this is really drastic. This is probably really not even close to the fact here. Because like I said many times, I don't think they're going to land Juan Soto. And that's why this offseason is automatically going to be a failure. Because that's the bar they're setting, is Juan Soto or bust. And most likely, you are going to bust on that. I'd be stunned if he does sign here. I'd be very stunned. Because I don't think it's going to happen. But that's the bar they're setting. It really is. Let's go to Sean.
So my thoughts on the end-of-year Phillies press conference, I'm disappointed. I mean, I knew that Dombrowski wasn't going to show his hand, but, and I didn't expect, for instance, a Rob Thompson termination announcement. I wasn't even in the corner of Rob necessarily being fired, but I thought for sure that Kevin Long was going to be a casualty. I just don't understand, once again, the run-it-back mentality that this team seems to have. It didn't work last year, and it sounds like they're going to run it back again this year. I mean, Juan Soto, is he going to put this team over the top if he's the only guy that they're going after gung-ho? I don't know. I think changes have to be made. I've detailed some things that I wanted to see. But, you know, again, if they stand pat, if they, with another year with an older roster, think that this team is going to magically, mystically get to the World Series and win it, I think they're fooling themselves, and they're sure as hell fooling the fan base.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Jesus Christ, it's just like, I do think, like I said, I do think they're going to make some changes. Like I said, I don't think Alec Boehm's going to be here next year. I know they're praising Brandon Marsh a lot. I don't think you can run it back with Brandon Marsh either. So you're basically talking about 2 positions right there. You're talking about third base. You're talking about left field. They're already talking about giving JT Realmuto more rest. And I'd be in the conversation of moving JT Realmuto, to be honest with you. But even though I don't think that's going to be the case whatsoever, they're already talking about bringing in something else to give him more rest, whether that's, you know, just promoting Rafael Marchand to the backup catcher role, or you go out in the offseason and sign or trade for another catcher that's going to give you a little bit of leeway in giving JT Realmuto rest. I actually do want to see if there's any, like, specifically with the catchers, in terms of free agents. I doubt there's anything that stands out as major importance right there, or like major names. So names that stand out really, or not even stand out, names that are even on this list: James McCann, Travis d'Arnaud, Max Stassi, Danny Jansen, Austin Hedges, Austin Barnes, Luke Maley, Yasmani Grandal, Kyle Higashioka, Jake Stallings, Andrew Kisner, Reese McGuire. There's not really that many names on this list here that stand out. Obviously, they're backup catchers. That's why they're always on the market. You know what I mean? So that's the case right there. But basically, people that I'm looking to move this offseason, and the one that I think is an obvious is Alec Boehm. I think he's gone. I think he is completely gone. Marsh, I wouldn't be shocked if he's gone. If you look at some of the other players on the roster, Bryce is staying. He doesn't deserve to go. There's no reason to trade Bryce Harper. He's the face of your team. Kyle Schwarber, he's on the last year of his contract. I don't think they're going to do anything with Kyle Schwarber. He's big for that locker room. Trey Turner, you're stuck with. Nick Castellanos, there could be a chance that he moves. I don't think it does make moving his contract easier that he does have only 2 years left at $40 million on the contract. So it definitely makes it more enticing to move him. And they were trying to move him in the last offseason, so I wouldn't be shocked if those rumors come up again. What else? JT Realmuto, I think he deserves to go because I think he's just in a steep decline just at this point. Pitching wise, you just extended Wheeler, you just extended Nola, you just extended Sanchez. Those 3 are set in stone. You're most likely expecting Andrew Painter to fight for a rotation spot next year, and I have no idea what they're going to do with Ranger Suarez. I don't know what's going to be the case there. Bullpen wise, I wouldn't be shocked if they bring back some names. I wouldn't be shocked if they bring back Hoffman. I wouldn't be shocked if they bring back Estevez. Bullpen guys are interchangeable. So that's really just, not for me to judge there. We'll see what happens in that case. And that's really it right there. You got to improve guys on the bench. I would assume Edmundo Sosa is still going to be here. Obviously, backup catcher most likely going to be different, but they need to get guys that are better than Cody Clemens. They need to get guys that are better than Austin Hayes. Even though I liked what Cody Clemens brought last year, you need something more. You need more on that bench. So you need more than Cody Clemens. You need more than freaking who else? Or the guys like Buddy Kennedy, even though that was a nice story. Cal Stevenson and all that stuff. Even though those were fun times, it's just like you need better. You need better options. So there's a lot of things that they need to put up here. And we got to wait and see what happens. Because I don't know what the fuck's going to happen here. I just don't. They're really on this Juan Soto or bus train. And this train is heading for a cliff, and it's going to come crashing down and just completely topple over and explode. It's what it is. It's what it is. As they watch a possible, even though the NLCS is tied right now, the Mets got spanked in Game 1 by the Dodgers, and then the Mets got spanked the Dodgers in return in Game 2. It's funny when you're seeing these games, especially in Game 1 where Kodai Senga is throwing all over the place in the Fox broadcast, is praising the Dodgers hitters for being as patient as they were, not chasing, not swinging and missing. It's like, oh my God, the Phillies would not have had a chance in this series, most likely at this rate with the way their approach is. My God. My God. So I think for baseball, it's just ALCS Game 2 tonight, and then NLCS Game 3 and shit like that over the next few days. I have no idea. I've barely been watching. At the end of the day, because I don't want to watch. So yeah, that's basically it there. For Philadelphia sports, it's now Eagles pissing us off, Flyers, they're tonight against Edmonton, and then for the Sixers, they just fucking got a lucky blow with Paul George's injury not being as serious. It's only a bone bruise, so hyperextended knee. Everyone thought the worst case scenario because obviously with the Sixers, why wouldn't you think the worst case scenario? But I guess they avoided it, and it was a bone bruise. It's probably the best case scenario there. I don't know. Just nothing has been going right for this city sports-wise for years. At some point, you would think something goes right. You'd think. But the sports gods always give us the toughest battles. And I think they get some amusement out of it. I think they do. So, I don't know what's going to happen. This team, they just find more ways to make you annoyed. That's all it is. It's also like Zach said, I think Nick Sirianni loves what they did because it took some heat off of him. I think it did. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. In terms of the Flyers of a Flyer stream tonight, I probably won't do it. Just, enjoy watching and all that crap. It's also late at night, so there could be a chance that I doze off during it because fucking late night game. So play that by ear. Then we also have the game on Thursday and everything there. So hopefully the Flyers win tonight. Hopefully we can get some good news from there. Hopefully they could beat the Edmonton Oilers, who are 0-3 on the season and definitely are desperate looking for a win there. So it'll be a tough game for the Flyers. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Appreciate you as always. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Don't forget to drop a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Does me a great deal of service. And also use the code TTPSPORTS. $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Great deal. Do not pass it up.